Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Today's episode of Legal Tea is a cautionary tale topic, and these kind of episodes, we talk about real-life cases, real-life clients. They are things me or my office have actually worked on. For today's episode, we're going to be talking more about a general topic that seems to come up all the time. And the topic we're going to be talking about is how so many clients do not think really long and hard about who they're going to put in various estate planning roles and or how they want their estate plan designed, generally speaking. A perfect example of kind of what I'm referring to is something like this, and it's said to me all the time in the conference room. Clients will say, okay, let's put Bob in that role because he's the oldest. In every single decision, my friends, when you embark on your estate planning process, there should be some level of analysis that occurs. And that is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to first tell you about a client and their story just to kind of generally set this episode up. And then we'll talk about my thoughts in regards to making those hard decisions during an estate planning process. Before we get started, I have to be transparent about something. So I normally, in most episodes, I think every single episode so far, and I'm over 100 at this point, most episodes I write out the episodes, or I kind of script them out, so to speak. And I do it primarily for two reasons. One, I don't want to accidentally slip up and say a client's name. And especially on these cautionary tale type of episodes, these are real life clients. And so when I'm thinking about the client or when I'm recording an episode, I'm kind of thinking about them in my head, and I don't want to slip up and say their names. So that's reason number one. And reason number two is I also don't want to go on some random tangent, kind of like I'm doing right now, and make this episode way too long. So I normally script out my episode, but I haven't today. Today is going to be all natural. I started to write it out, and I'm a little pushed for time on my recording schedule, so I was like, I'm going to do it. Let's try it. Let's try it all natural. So give me some grace, give me a break in case I, seem a little bit more fumbly or something like that. Alrighty, so let's start things off by really talking about the client. So let's call the client John and Susie. John and Susie, they have two kids, and two adult kids in their 30s or 40. I think they're in their 30s. Kind of the thing you have to know and take away from their family setup is John and Susie took the initiative to get their estate planning done. And as we really started to dive into who was going where and how were their kids inheriting, we really discovered that neither of their children were honestly good candidates for some of these various estate planning roles. And when I say various estate planning roles, what I mean are things like healthcare representative, healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney, executor, successor trustee, those kind of terms, which I'm going to get into here in a second. But kind of long story short, John and Susie's kids, they both had some kind of personal issues going on, and thankfully, John and Susie realized that neither of their children were really great candidates to serve in these roles. And so, when we initially sat down, they're kind of longtime clients of my offices. When we initially sat down, they didn't put either one of their children in any of these estate planning roles. And ultimately, they ended up putting some, a niece or a nephew in some various roles. And then they also put a bank, a trust company, to serve as executor and trustee after they pass away. So in that moment, they chose really, really, really wisely. Fast forward some time, and somewhat recently, one of them passed away. Susie passed away. And so my office primarily was working with John at this point. So John comes into my office to kind of just make sure things are buttoned up from like a document standpoint, following Susie's passing. And that was that was a really good move, because oftentimes in married couples, it's John and Susie as each other's first. So like Susie was going to be John's healthcare decision maker. Susie was going to be John's power of attorney, et cetera, et cetera. So John was really coming in because we had to remove Susie and all of his documents. And we get to that meeting, I walk into the conference room, and he brought one of his children, and which is pretty normal, which is pretty, it's totally fine. I have clients bring their kids all the time to meetings. But what ended up occurring in that meeting was kind of surprising to me. Long story short, the message loud and clear was that John was now wanting to put one of his children in these roles now. And why it was surprising to me is because neither one of the kids, both kids still had very, much lingering personal issues going on. Nothing had changed in either one of their lives to make me really feel like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and put, so-and-so in the documents, because, the child's got their head straight at this point. Neither one of them did. And so what occurred in that meeting, was really, what it reminds me of is, so often attorneys are referred to as counselors, right? And I had to do a lot of counseling in that meeting, because I was trying to sort of respectfully show John that may or may not be the best idea to put either one of his children in these roles. And keep in mind, one of the children is sitting in this meeting. So it was a little strange, but at the end of the day, that's my job. I'm the professional in the room. That is what clients pay me to do, is to provide my opinion, my counseling, my advice, my recommendations. And that wasn't my recommendation. I knew very, very specifically what was going on in both of their children's lives, and it, in my professional opinion, was not going to be a good idea to put either one of the children in these roles. So we had a really awesome, respectful, transparent conversation. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he chose not to put either one of his children in any of these estate planning roles. I'm still really not sure how I managed to work my magic like that, but I did. And I think this is a really good time to mention, specifically with this case, that just because that's how things are now. And that's how things were when we initially created the plan, right? That neither one of their children were really great candidates to serve in these roles. And that's still the same way today. But that doesn't mean that things can't change in the future. So if either or both kiddos, kind of get their act together and show John that they would be, good candidates for these roles, we could always change things, right? But at the end of the day, right now, still not good candidates, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So I thought in this, anytime I have these kind of tough conversations with clients, I try to remember to mention in my conference room when I'm talking through these kind of hard things with clients that this is really normal. And I think I've talked about this here before on Legal Tea, that, when I think of like your all-American perfect little family, like Pleasantville or like, I don't know, any of those kind of very picture perfect families, those are honestly pretty rare. Usually someone ends up in my conference room, and usually there's something going on. There's something that we have to talk about, whether it's, a blended family, or whether it's maybe a beneficiary has addiction issues, or maybe they have some marital problems, or creditor, or, financial issues that we have to be concerned about. A lot of people have a lot of issues, and that is totally okay. I think that's, like I said, much more normal than your very quintessential all-American picture perfect. What do they call it online? Like, there's what's shown on social media and what's in real life. I get to see that play out like all the time. So I thought it would be kind of a good idea for this episode, now that I kind of explained John and Susie and kind of what happened with them and what has happened with them, to kind of just quickly go through the traits that I feel like, in my professional opinion, that these kind of estate planning roles, the candidates for those roles, should really possess. Just to help kind of, instead of you showing up to embark on your estate planning journey and, just throw your oldest child down or throw all the kids down as maybe hearing from me kind of things to be thinking of on the traits that these candidates should possess for these roles to really be successful. Maybe it will help you kind of narrow things down. So first of all, we have healthcare representative. This is the person that's going to make healthcare decisions for you if you cannot make them for yourself. So when I think of this role, I immediately think, okay, if this person is making healthcare decisions, that probably means that emotions are really high. And we have to be making, fact-based decisions during high emotion times. And so that's the kind of person I think would be a good fit for this role. Someone that can, sure, they're still going to be emotional. We're not robots. We're still humans. But the person that really would be a good fit for this role really can kind of keep their emotions kind of at bay and be able to really make decisions based on facts. And, if you put this person in one of those escape rooms, is this person going to crumble in the corner and just cry themselves over the next hour to get out of the room? Or are they going to put their head down, get to work, and be able to keep the emotions and energy at bay to make decisions? That's what I really think about for a healthcare representative. Power of attorney. So power of attorney is our financial decision maker if we're living but need someone to possibly step in and help navigate legal and financial decisions. This person, kind of the same traits. We need someone that's very fact-based, that's also very organized and punctual and efficient, and isn't the kind of person that's going to let moss grow on things. This person really has a lot of responsibilities and they have a lot of power. So, when you think of someone that, may have some sort of experience that maybe doing their own financial management or running a business or, some sort of experience in a financial industry, those would be really good traits to consider for the power of attorney position. Now, executor and trustee. So executor is someone in a last will and testament. So that's after we have passed away. And a successor trustee in a trust depends on how the trust is set up, but usually they're often kicking in after someone has passed away as well. This role really comes even heavier than the power of attorney's responsibilities, because it's very financial and legal focused as well. However, this is now someone's passed away, And I think we all know families and individuals that, when money's on the table, things get a little strange, right? And so oftentimes this is the role when someone passes away that's navigating those post-death responsibilities. And sometimes those post-death responsibilities, not only do they come with an immense amount of work, so again, you've got to be organized and efficient and, not let moss grow on things, that sort of thing, but also be willing to, dare I say, be the bad guy. Sometimes this person has to be, the one that says, this is how mom left it. This is how dad left it. And your duty is to follow the rules, not to make them up yourself, not to bend the rules, to follow them. And so it also comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of trust. This is why oftentimes, I just looked down at the time. See, this is why I have to script out my episode, guys. I usually try to keep these at 15 minutes. This is why a lot of families and individuals will possibly consider putting a third-party professional, like a fiduciary, like an attorney, an accountant, a bank, a trust company to serve in this role. And I hear people do that for a lot of different reasons. But by far, one of the biggest reasons I hear people say is, I just don't want to burden someone with that responsibility. And, or if we've got, some contentious relationships between beneficiaries, they kind of want someone just to be able to step in a professional capacity and just follow their documents, follow the rules that they left to this person. So I hope this episode helps when you go to navigate your estate planning journey, or if you have, and maybe this episode will help you, if next time you revisit your estate plan, just make sure that you really have thought long and hard about who you have in these roles, and if these people can really truly take on that role and take on the responsibility that goes with those roles. So let's wrap up this episode. Next week, we're back to the current trends, current events topic. And that's always something I've seen and run across that I think would be interesting on here. So I say interesting, but I've kind of been putting this topic off for a while because I feel like no one really cares about hearing about taxes and things like that. But I feel like I need to do my due diligence and do an episode on specifically estate taxes and what they are. And also there's a whole bunch of scuttlebutt going on right now about how they're going to be, it's supposed to sunset, the estate tax limit is supposed to sunset, meaning that it's going to drastically decrease at the 2025-2026 turn of the year. So in order to prepare you for that and also be able to equip you with kind of what's going to start showing up on the news eventually, I should do an episode on it so you guys know what is going on. So until then, Legal Tea listeners, please be well, and we will talk soon.